So, just as some introductory comments, the crypto market peaked at about $3 trillion last year. And in about 12 months or so, it lost about $2 trillion worth of value. That is amongst the largest and most dramatic losses of value ever, right? In parallel, right now, Sam Bankman-Fried is in trial for presiding over FTX's misappropriation of about $8 billion of customers' funds. So you could argue that it's not surprising that investors are a little bit skeptical about investing in crypto and Web3. And so really the purpose of this discussion, what I hope to achieve in the next half an hour, is really to understand where are the genuine value creation and investment opportunities in Web3. Are there any? Can we find them? Or is it all just a massive bullshit scam? With me are the right people to answer this question. We have people who are building Web3 applications and projects, people who are investing in it. And so let's just jump straight in. Guys, my first question to you is this. It's a very simple question. I want a very simple answer. What is the definition of Web3? Can someone volunteer to take this one?
Yeah, sure. I'll start.
Okay, go. Sanjit, you're brave. Let's do it.
Yeah, but before I give out my definition of Web3, I want to say you are way too pessimistic, buddy.
Then prove me wrong. Tell me the definition of Web3.
You should look at it as this is the biggest opportunity ever for mankind.
Answer the question wrong and ask somebody else to answer it.
Yeah. Web3 is the last piece of innovation that mankind will ever need.
Okay, but what is it? Define what is Web3.
Taking the powers out of central authority and giving it to each of you in the room.
Okay. What else? Is that your definition? Taking the power from central authority, giving it to people in the room. Okay. Anyone else has a different definition they want to share?
Well, I think for me, there's two definitions. One of it is when the value of your digital assets is worth more than the value in the real life. And I would say the traditional definition of Web3 is, in order to understand Web3, you have to understand Web 1, that was read-only, Web 2, that was read and write, and now Web 3, read, write, and ownership. So adding the notion of ownership to the internet.
I like what you did. You just quoted Chris Dixon of A16, man, which is one of the biggest investors, and we'll come on to that later. Okay, cool. So basically what we're saying is it's about ownership of digital assets. That is the main premise of Web 3. So now let me ask you another question. Okay. What can you do with it? I mean, there's been so much hype around Web3. Last year, everyone was talking about NFTs. People were spending millions of dollars on pictures of apes and punks, right? People touted NFTs as being not just pictures, but also real-world utility, right? So my question is this. Tell me an example, just one example of a real-world use case for Web3. What can people in the room use Web3 for? Who wants to take this one?
I'm happy to take this.
Go for it, Laurenz.
And since this is a financial group sitting here, one of the most obvious things that comes to mind is stock trading. So you still have several counterparties that are digitally connected, but they need to exchange so much information until a stock that I buy is actually settled and visible in my account. You see exchanges looking at it. I mean, any crypto exchange effectively is a blueprint of how trading can be made more efficient. So one aspect is more about efficiency. But if you zoom out a little bit where this can go and where it's more obvious, it's like you want to build a rocket that can lead you to Mars. You have no clue whether you'll be able to create it, but you know you need propulsion. You look around propulsion and you can compare that to all the smart contracts. So with that, with building a rocket that goes to Mars, so many interesting stuff
Let me interrupt
being built.
Okay.
No, just a second.
I can do stock trading. No, I'm the moderator, so I can stop you whenever I want. I can do, and these guys are getting bored with your answer, yeah? So I can do stock trading on interactive brokers. That is not Web3, that is Web 2. Why do I need Web3 to do stock trading? Answer me in one sentence.
It's the middle step to get there. So if I am able to digitize the venues that exist today, which are the most obvious venues that you would go to, you mentioned interactive brokers, you're more likely to use them than you would use a Uniswap. However, if you can migrate an interactive brokers into something where you and I can trade peer-to-peer, that's true innovation, most importantly for interactive brokers. So it's a path. This is why building a rocket will lead you somewhere.
interesting, but I'm still not buying it. Let me ask, JT, you were going to say something? Why don't you give me your answer to this? Tell me one use case of Web3 that these guys will easily be able to understand. Go for it.
Sure, I'll give you. Actually, I'll give you two.
No, give me one.
Okay. So the easiest one, in my opinion, to understand is Ethereum, just as a transfer of value and payment, basically, right? A decentralized transfer of and management of, let's say, your company's treasury, right? So we use a multi-signature wallet for our company treasury, right? It basically operates as a 724 bank with no centralized party. 3 signers need to sign the wallet. Our treasury manager initiates a payment. Our 3 partners of the fund have a key. We approve the payment of a stablecoin or any other of the currencies in our wallet, and it happens.
Okay.
And that's a very simple
Okay,
use case.
decentralized governance.
Yes.
I could argue that you could probably do that in a non-Web3 environment, but fine. If you want no one to have any ownership, then fine. Perhaps that's an interesting one. William, why don't you go for it?
So for us, we're really into boring things that make money, right? So it was very, very difficult in the old days to get access as an investor to commercial real estate unless you could buy a building. And then we got REITs. One of the challenges today is if you want to participate in the most boring of industries in the world that makes lots of money, i.e. reinsurance, it's very difficult as a human because Munich Re, Swiss Re, Lloyd's, and others basically dominate it and control it. So one of our companies, Insuro, basically does DeFi reinsurance. It's traditional insurance, reinsurance, travel insurance. Is your ferry late or not late? But you can access that through stablecoin. So anybody in the world can buy $1 worth or $100,000 worth, or hopefully soon $1 million worth. We're not quite there yet, and get access to pretty stable 17 to 19% annual yields that have no correlation to much of anything except for ferries being on time.
Interesting. Did you guys understand what he just said? Can I ask the audience a question? Put your hands up if you have invested or are investing in cryptocurrencies. Okay, so that's actually probably half, but I think there's a few. Put your hands up if you would never invest in cryptocurrencies. Okay, so there are a couple of skeptics here. So basically, we've talked about a few use cases, which I still think are a little bit amorphous, a bit nebulous. I mean, clearly, they're not things that roll off the tongue. They're not things that people can grasp straight away. Hervé, I want to ask you a question. So Hervé here has got a very interesting background. He's been in crypto for many years. And 2 years ago, he was involved working with Bored Ape Yacht Club in developing their first coin, the Ape coin, right? Ape coin reached a market cap of about $8 billion about a month after it was launched. And then it crashed to about $1 billion plus or minus where it's now today. Hervé, can you tell me what is ApeCoin and what can people do with it?
Yeah, so it's very interesting because I feel also that there's often a bit of a generation gap. And so I've been a builder for 10 years, and one of the way to find out if somebody is our target audience or not, we use what we call the Justin Bieber game, which is if you know who Justin Bieber's wife is, that means you're going to understand Web3. And everything else, we have a different ways of expressing it. So, and the reason why I say that is that gaming tends to be one of the big narrative within the space. Currently, I'm doing a roadshow with Animoca Brands. We're launching their first tokens built on top of Bitcoin.
No, but I want you to answer my question. ApeCoin.
So ApeCoin, when Yuga Labs approached us, originally it was to build first the metaverse and to drop the metaverse, and then after that doing the non-fungible tokens. And that changed at the last minute just because for a series of reasons. But ApeCoin was the currency of that metaverse. And the idea was that to buy land, to make transactions, you needed ape coins. Now, there was a few real case study, which on the first week, both Gucci and LVMH on the same day announced that they will accept ApeCoin as a mode of payment. So you could go to any Gucci store in the US and pay with ApeCoin, and you can buy tag your watches of LVMH also using ApeCoin. So those are real case, real utility around it. And then there's our different mechanism around it, whether it's staking that we're still doing.
Sure.
That's about $500 million of staking that we've been.
But you said that ApeCoin was intended to be the currency of the metaverse. Which metaverse? Does that metaverse exist yet, or is it a hypothetical thing that hasn't been created yet?
Yeah, so for it, Andreessen Horowitz raised $500 million to build that metaverse. It's called the Other Side. There was a drop that was done about 15 months ago, and people bought plots of land and they're able to build economies on top of it. The difference between the Other Side metaverse versus, for example, a Roblox or a Fortnite is that you actually have the possibility to own the land and therefore the activity on top of it, which is, for large, Web2, publicly traded gaming company, 100% of the profit goes back to the shareholders.
So I get the idea that Web3 enables you to own digital assets. But my question still is, why does that matter? What can you do with those digital assets? If I buy land in the metaverse, what can I do with it? I mean, that might be all well and good, but what's the point?
Yeah, so I think for our target market, when it relates to the metaverse, for them that is their world, and for other people, when they see their kids playing Roblox, they're going to say it's the biggest waste of time in the world. So I really do think that it depends where people's interest.
Fair enough. So let's talk a bit about gaming, because people have often touted gaming as being a very important use case for Web3. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about this is arguably one of the biggest and most famous Web3 games, Axie Infinity, right? Which had maybe 1 million or more players. And this is a game which you play and you earn money. So you play this game and you earn money. There were hundreds of thousands of people in the Philippines who were playing this game for a living last year. And it turns out that this game has actually been exposed as just a massive Ponzi, and the thing has collapsed entirely. This is the most famous Web3 game, ladies and gentlemen, that people were playing for a living and has now been exposed to be a Ponzi scheme. So tell me an example of a Web3 game which is not a scam, which actually is value add, and people play it because it's a Web3 game and not because it's a Web2 game. Anyone want to take that one? Maybe JT, you're a Web3 game investor. Maybe you can give us one example.
Yeah, we invest extensively in this field. So I looked on Moderator right before our panel, and the top Web3 game right now is a game called Farmer's World. Right, it's a simple game. It's about 150,000 players a day. I will have to say that everything that Anish said about Axie Infinity is true, right? At its peak, it was about 1.52 million players a day. Right now, they're down to they even still have 50,000 players a day, right?
Wow.
And over a month, so that's daily active. Over a monthly active, they actually have 200,000. So people are still logging on, so people are still playing. I guess people, gaming is still one of the, most attractive forms of entertainment. Gaming revenues are bigger than media and music entertainment.
I get why gaming is huge. Microsoft just bought Activision. Clearly, this is a big space. But why Web3? As in, there are plenty of really great, profitable Web2 games. So
yes, there are.
What is it? Give me an example of a Web3 game that is valuable because of the blockchain. And the blockchain is a core feature of that, because there are many Web3 games that are blockchain-based, but they could easily be Web2 games.
Yes.
Right? So
Right.
give me an example.
Right now, it's early stages. So right now, a lot of the companies that we've invested in have spent 1.5 to 2 years developing it. We will start seeing these come on board next year. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer right now, but we're very optimistic because we see what's different about Axie Infinity. Axie Infinity and other games in the play to earn, or any of the other things you heard with the last cycle, sleep to earn, walk to earn, X to earn, basically, right? Those are all built with tokenomics first. And tokenomics first means that if there's no new money coming in, well, these things don't go much further. The new genre or the new next wave of games which are coming up are ones which are built on number one, quality gameplay. And then secondly, right, all games, successful games right now, like Roblox, like Epic Games, Fortnite, they all have in-game economies. So what Web3 does to these in-game economies is it creates a more equitable distribution of the earnings or of that economy. And that's what Web3 really is, right? Not just games, but everything else that you think about, financial transactions, art, ownership of assets, that the contributors of the economy are entitled or receive more of the portion of the earnings, and not the platform, which is, these nice successful Web2 companies that we know of today.
The bottom line is like games have to be fun.
Yes.
Right? So one of our companies ran a lot of experiments where they took a game that's actually fun, like Roblox, and then created instances of it where that the actual kids playing it could monetize within that instance. The products and basically the tools and the swords and the weapons, whatever that they're creating. And so economies, when it's fun, do thrive.
Sure.
But most of my son had an internship 2 summers ago testing Web3 games, and I think he almost killed me because they're so boring. He almost killed himself.
You see, this is the point, right? It looks like there is potential, but it hasn't been realized yet. It's still just an idea that hasn't actually come to fruition. You wanted to say something else, JT?
Yeah, what I want to say is what you've seen right now are the games that launch in 6 to 9 months. And a lot of them were following the footsteps of Axie Infinities. So, it's 3 versus 3, sharks, pigs, you name it, whatever it is, right? And that model does not work anymore. A lot of the other games which are coming out online are the ones that took time to develop. And these are the ones where they feel like Web2 games, right? If you're not told they're Web3 games, you cannot tell they're Web3 games. And I think that's when Web3 succeeds. When you know it's good, it's a product you want to use and play, and it's not, it's just like Web2.
I guess we shall see, because they don't exist yet today. Okay, my next question is this. We have a few investors here. William, Laurenz, JT, Sanjit, you guys are all investors. Hervé has already made it. He doesn't need to worry about anything because he's a builder. He's an OG, right? But let me ask the investors, your portfolios now, and tell me the truth, today, compared with 12 months ago, are they up or down? Each of you in turn.
I can start.
Sanjit, up or down?
Up.
Crypto stuff.
I'm talking of only crypto stuff.
Great, okay, you're up. Laurenz?
Up.
Is it? William?
Yeah, in the last year we're up. If you look back 2 years, we're down. Yeah.
Can you give us percentages? You willing to give us percentages? Last 12 months, Sanjit, can you share?
Yeah, there are three crypto companies, Consensus, Helium, and WorldCoin. WorldCoin is up 7x in 6 months.
Okay, WorldCoin. Let's talk about that in just a minute. That's a very interesting project. Laurenz, what about you?
The point, I cannot share, but the point really is, why are you up and why are you down? And this, but I'll answer
We'll
that
come
later.
to that. William, numbers?
So we're basically flat to slightly up.
Okay.
So it's, for ours, we're equity investors.
Right.
So you don't like mark to market. But I would say that for a lot of our portfolio companies, they went negative, and a couple of them died. And then what's happened over the last year is that they kept on building. And so some of them, our companies make revenue. So we're like old school revenue. And so that revenue is starting to pick up. And on the back of that, they're able to potentially raise a bit more money at a higher valuation. So we're seeing some step ups.
Okay. So I want to ask Sanjit this question because you mentioned WorldCoin, Helium, and Consensus. Okay, fine. These are solid, well-known crypto projects.
Yeah, because we invest primarily in equity with some in crypto.
We'll come on to the mechanics of investing in just a moment, but I want to know, when you guys look at Web3 investment opportunities, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 key characteristics that you look for before you make your investment decision? I'd like to ask Sanjit first.
Yeah.
Go ahead. 1 or 2 or 3 key characteristics that you use to evaluate a Web3 investment opportunity before you make your decision.
Yeah, when we look at Web3, we actually still look at Web3 from a traditional equity investment perspective first.
Okay.
So we want to see a product, a mission, a whole project around it, not just, hey, here's a token I'm launching,
Right.
and I'll go ICO and I'll deliver 50x in 6 months. No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
You don't like 50x in 6 months?
I love it, but we have all seen those dream slides.
Carry on.
So it doesn't happen. So like when we invested in WorldCoin, we invested in actually an identity platform. It's a real product. It also has a token to incentivize users, but that's not the only thing it does. So that's what we look for as first thing.
So WorldCoin is basically the one where you scan your eyeball and you get paid in crypto. Have you guys done this yet? You can do it in Dubai, actually.
You should try it.
No one wants to give their retinal scan away? Really? Even if you get paid for it? Wow, man. Okay.
But it's not just what you're saying. You scan your iris and get paid in token. It's a digital identity platform. So because AI is rising, the number of bots is also rising.
I bet it's popular in China, right?
It's popular in Japan, Southeast Asia. It's popular in some African countries as
Okay,
well.
so you basically say you look for utility. Lawrence, I want to ask you this. You say you're a contrarian investor who's able to find alpha in places that others cannot. Give me your methodology or the criteria you look for when investing in Web3 opportunities.
Sure. So as a directional evergreen hedge fund, we look at stuff that really will be relevant not only in the midterm, but also in the long term. In other words, what will be the Amazon of a particular field? And one of the aspects we look for is it should not be as boring and predictable as Bitcoin mining because, well, that's just not an investment case that justifies the risk.
You can make money doing it though, man.
Of
Anyway,
course,
carry on,
of course,
carry
but
on.
that's not the point. The
Carry on,
point is
carry on.
what are really technological solutions that are being built based on this technology that will replace a Google or someone else. And they are there. They're difficult to understand, which is why we're having this debate, and the question whether an NFT is relevant or not proves that point. But the point is, when you take a position in something like that, you need to have the stamina to not only hold it, to help the team survive in times like these, but also, and this is an interesting experience we've made in previous funds, hold an asset for as long as it makes maybe 1,000x. And that's something that this technology gives us as an opportunity as an investor. And the most important thing, to be honest, is teach our investors that they should just sit back and relax because none of them have any clue about it.
Okay, fine. That's very interesting. None of them have any clue. So basically, you're saying that we're investing in an area which no one understands what the hell is going on, right? So how the hell do you make the investment decision? What basis, what characteristics, what parameter do you use? Because you told me you're not going to invest in the ordinary boring stuff. You want to invest in some long-term sexy stuff. That's pretty generic. Like, is there any more specificity you can give me there?
Of course. I mean, you can deduct it from what kind of field is interesting. I mean, the field of payments is super relevant.
Okay.
Just look at stablecoins. You have two major issuers, which are Tether and Circle, but they're super small. But if you look at the global payments world and what the credit card companies, for example, are interested in, you need something that taps into a much more liquid market, which are banks. So we looked at a company that enables any bank to switch from having a classic current account to offer any of its clients to have a stable coin in their pocket, including a wallet. That's very binary. It may never come to fruition, but if it does, it taps into a huge market.
Okay, interesting. Hervé, go.
Yeah, maybe from another perspective, from a builder standpoint, and how do we view the way that we build the tokenomics. There's so I'm a special counsel also on a DAO, on our token, the Horizen token, the Zen token that's available on 50 exchanges. And the way that I actually look at the value of the token, and yesterday I had an hour call with our CFO, his question is not about the price of the token, it's about the governance element through it. So the investment decision on my side, when you look at the DAO space, there's 160 DAO, there's $16 billion in treasury. If you own the tokens, you get a right to vote on certain decisions. So there's $16 billion in a bear market to be unlocked. So from my perspective, I see the investment decision of almost like a share in a publicly traded company up until the moment you get a board seat and make a moment to get decision to even create more value within that ecosystem. So I see that ranking as the number one reasons to buy and hold or to sell a token.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk quickly about the mechanics. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I might want to open up for 1 or 2 questions. So let's talk about the mechanics of investing. In Web3, well, in traditional VC, you make an investment in equity. In Web3, you can make an investment either in the form of equity or tokens, right? Sanjit, you said you only do equity?
We have done 20 investments, all equity.
All equity.
3 token plus equity.
Token plus equity. William, you do equity or tokens?
So we are a VC fund equity side, so we can buy equity.
Okay.
Now, we also help with our program.
Right.
So the key is if the team takes tokens, we do take tokens for our program,
Right.
but we cannot buy tokens.
Understood.
So we're equity side.
Laurenz, tokens or equity?
We can do whatever we want, but we have a high preference for token, and we would accept equity if it leads to a token that
Okay.
fits
Okay.
our design.
And JT, what about you? Tokens or equity?
We're both.
Okay, fine, both. So when you structure your investments, right? So this is very important, okay? Equity, when a VC invests in equity, that's not very liquid. You have to hold on to it and either sell it to a secondary or wait for an exit. But the beauty of tokens is that they are liquid, right? You can make an investment in an early stage company, pump that token price up, and then dump it on gullible retail investors and make a massive return, right? So why do you guys even bother entertaining the idea of equity? Why not just go for tokens? How do you choose how to structure your investments? Who wants
Yeah,
to
so
take this?
we're very long-term investors. So the idea is that we're going in to help build a product or an ecosystem or a service
Right.
that changes the way we do things fundamentally, and that
Right.
does not happen through a flip. So I mean, we've done 1,000x in investments, but we're still holding. And so if you actually believe in the long-term opportunity here, you buy and you
Right.
hold and you support the companies as they build.
I like that very ethical approach. Anyone has a different view, preference to tokens?
I do. But in equity, you have to follow that route because there's no other way.
Exactly. You're locked in, right? You're handcuffed.
Whereas
Lawrence, tell me about why tokens are the way forward.
Tokens are the way forward because Hervé mentioned DAOs, which is basically a decentralized security. So you hold a token, it represents ownership in a platform, you get a percentage of the revenues. So it is a security. So why don't I want to buy more or less liquid token over time? If I have the time to do that as an evergreen fund, I do. So I want to use the volatility in markets to increase my position that I have conviction in over time, which I also can as a buyer in token because there is people who always want to sell for whatever reason.
That's a very diplomatic answer. Isn't the truth actually the fact that the reason why VCs are so seduced by Web3 is nothing to do with any real world value creation or actual use case, and is more to do with the fact that when you invest in Web3 in the form of tokens, you're investing in a highly liquid asset that you can manipulate fairly easily, pump up to massive levels, and then dump on gullible retail investors, making 100x in a few months, which was exactly what Andreessen Horowitz has done with many of its investments. And isn't that the reason? Because you can, as a VC, make massive return on your investment in a liquid form as opposed to waiting for years to get an exit. Isn't that the reason?
I think when it relates to tokens, I would argue that the lockup periods are even more strict than equity. When you look at great projects, you look at their tokenomics, the founders are locked in for 5 years with their token. So I would argue that it's very difficult. In addition to that, there are gentlemen's agreements in blockchains because everything is transparent, and often you have projects, although you have the right to sell your tokens, that I would say, hey, the market condition is not right. It would be a bad sign to sell the token. And although you could sell it, the fact that it's transparent and you play a longer game, you're actually not going to sell your position even though you have the right to do it. So I would also argue that there is a shift also going on, and that's also due to social media. I believe that tokens have value because they have attention. And attention is what creates large market caps. I would argue that it's probably the same case in equity markets. The more attention you get, the more charismatic founder you have, the more people bet against it.
It's true, but normally equity represents a part of a business that's generating cash flow, whereas a token represents fugazi, vaporware. It's like just
So
Not all.
well, it's actually supposed to represent a piece of the value, right?
Yeah, I
so if you're
suppose-
going to create value,
If
you have
it's
to
generating
sort of
value,
wait.
if it's generating
If you
value.
want to flip, you can flip, and whenever you have a market that's young, it's going to be massively volatile. As things mature, things smooth out a bit. And so if you're here for the long term and you think that there is a real fundamental opportunity here, sure, you can play the volatility to build position or reduce position and manage risk. But the key is to actually try and build and deliver a solution that solves a problem for people.
Okay, we
Yeah,
can still
I'm actually going to ask.
And also, IP is very important.
It's true.
That's
Now, we
tied
have
to
20 seconds,
equity.
right? What I really like is, does anyone have a question? Anyone in the audience have a burning question to ask? No? Okay, fine.
So
So
let me
answer
actually
all of
ask
them.
JT, go.
one last point on equity plus token. Most of what we're investing in right now and what we see in the market offering is actually equity plus a token warrant agreement. So when the market's down and people are afraid of risk, it'll be equity. Once the market picks up and the token market picks up, I do believe for most of these companies, whether they're built or not, they will convert and they will try to go out and let investors make 10x and dump tokens on the public.
So when rooms like this are kind of empty, that's when you buy, and when the rooms like this are kind of full, that's when you don't invest anymore.
I
So
like the thinking, man. I think that's all we've got time for. Guys, thank you so much. I've busted your balls, but you did a great job defending yourselves. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you.